Hello, namaste, everyone. Welcome to the 14th episode of PodAlchemy. And finally, we're out of the eclipse season and into higher spiritual realms, we hope. Or at
Oh,
least, yeah, at least we are navigating through smoother sails right now. Let's put it this way. And I've been just talking with Nadia before we started, and today um, it was actually my longing to talk about the importance of opening the heart in the spiritual path. Uh, a little bit of context here. This I feel is it's one of my biggest challenges and ailments in my own life as a, I hope, as I'm calling, a spiritual initiate, but very in the beginning. It has been one of my biggest challenge to open the heart and to really say it with as much this compassion for self also, realizing there are parts of my heart that are closed, and witnessing and seeing in my life where those energetic cords of closeness, how they disconnect me from source, and how those cords are actually depleting me of my own power and energy, but also being very um, patient. And this is why I wanted to bring Nadia here to the discussion in particular. I feel Nadia is, the embodiment example of someone who really has a big heart, big open heart. But not only that, she wears her heart on her sleeve. So we we come from very polar opposites here on this aspect of reality and timelines. And I feel through our conversation, we will be able to bring different perspectives from two sides, two polarities of being. And yeah, I want to give the floor now to Nadia.
okay. We know, like when we talked before on the PodAlchemy, then it just flows, and then the minute record comes, it's like this stalling, no? Yes, about the heart. It is, well, the thing is that that's something which I've never realized before. The level, the way I feel things, they are so deep and so profound that it can really, it's and I haven't individualized that before. For me, it was normal that this thing happens, everybody feels that deep and profound. So this is a realization that that level of feelings that's going on in my core existence is not something that is shared by everybody, like with everything. So that basically what a really big revelation that happened to me, a big insight of the last maybe year, 1.5 years, actually, since I met you as well, because of our polar opposites and that deep discussion about things. Because sometimes you just tend to go with people who either tick the same, or you avoid certain topics with certain people, but to really rub yourself on somebody who has a very different genetic setup can actually really enhance one's own growth. And then you see that it's not everything is just the way it is, because you think what your world is just the way everybody ticks, and then to realize, no, not everybody ticks that way. So this level of feelings that I have, they are astrologically can be explained with my many Cancerian placements or fourth house placements. My rising sun, my moon are in Cancer, and I have a lot of planets, it's a lot going on in my fourth house and Cancer. So this is very watery, it's very family, it's very home, the priorities I have in life. And then with you, there's more air in it, and there's more earth, like especially when it comes to the moon, you know, the Capricorn. So the feeling realms, it is there's something which it is very beautiful to feel deeply, but it's also very painful. And then having the Leo as the sun, I do not seem like I feel so much. Like the first encounter you have with me, it's not, I'm not some, I don't look so soft, and I don't look so vulnerable. But inside, the inside world is like, it's like raw, it's soft, and that can be really, that's why the Cancerian, you know, that shell around. So I really need a lot of downtime from humanity. I need a lot of alone time because I feel so much. And I see beyond what the people portray on the outside. So when you feel so much, then it is very difficult to engage regularly and full time, because your nervous system is in an overreaction of I need those downtimes to regulate my nervous system. But there is like a balance act of regulating my nervous system and then the comfort zone. I love to be alone. I love to just be in my own space. So there's a very healthy side to it, that I just need to regulate my system. I need my downtime. It serves my soul to do it as a heart-centered being. But there is this other side where it tilts and it becomes a pattern, which is also trauma-based. You know, the trauma of not wanting to engage. There's a lot of that happening after the lockdown. There's a lot of that happening. Many people actually having this reaction. It's a trauma-based reaction as well. With me, it's not just trauma-based, it's also a healthy response, but it has both. So when you have this overstimulation, it is very important not to to play it out and then to feel hurt and to go into the victim, but to withdraw, to gather your wits and to regulate your system. I feel that heart-centered people need a lot of well, everybody needs a lot of grounding, you know, a lot of grounding, a lot of feeling of safety, security, and the backbone, the Muladhara issues and the Manipura issues, so you're strong enough to actually be heard, because it's a decision. Do I want to close? Because it's a decision. You can close a door. Do I want to close and then not feel anymore, which is also a trauma response? Or do I get strong enough so I can keep my heart open with the risk that it might get hurt again? And that is something which I feel is very important to understand. So when it comes to relation with somebody like an archetype or a prototype like Salome or myself, with her, when she has a stressful situation, when you have a stressful situation, when you have something, then you go and refer to your mind and you try to solve it with your mind and regulate it with your mind. And I do the same with the heart. So the thing is that when we are both in a good place and there's no stress and there's no there's no pressure, it's very easy to interact because we are both aware human beings who are aware of psychological makeups. However, when we get under pressure, this can be difficult, no? Because then you under pressure, you're under stress. And what's happening at the moment in this world, we are being put in a pressure cooker, in a collective pressure cooker. So we need to understand how what our own makeup is. I mean how we are made, what are we, and to discover and to do deep exploration within ourselves, because only when we know ourselves, we can also relate to the other and understand that the other also has their own makeup, their own blueprint. And then ideally, we do not lash out when the pressure comes. So that is something that I feel is as a big learning curve to help to navigate a lot of pressure. In the good times, you don't need any of those tools. In the bad times, or in the pressure times, which sometimes are not related to the other person, but just to what's happening in the universe, what's happening astrologically, what's happening in the web of life. It is just so important that we understand what our blueprint is, and that we also understand that not everybody's blueprint is the same.
Definitely. And I'm curious, connecting, because I try to connect, I try to understand, like, when did my heart close, and kind of like trace the traumatic experience, or really start to understand what was the moment I decided to do it and why, and yeah, just really feel into it and understand it, so that I can then do the reverse wiring of it's safe to open the heart. But it needs to be like kind of like a steady, slowly process. And a lot of what you said, the Muladhara, is really the key, the feeling safe. Whenever I start to feel safe, it's when I have those experiences where I'm starting to connect back to aspects of the heart. But it's not an easy, nor is it very it's not a quick fix, basically. But I am curious to ask you if you've always had your heart open, and if there was any moment you closed your heart. And I want to also know your opinion on the just really where humanity is at collectively, because I do feel we share this opinion, but I do feel like you have more knowledge and foundation to talk about it than me, which is that collectively we are in a very mind-centric world, and a lot of people have decided to close their heart consciously or unconsciously. And as we now evolve collectively, I really feel the keys more and more are in the heart, even if you were born under circumstances that you were not exposed to an open heart from the beginning, from design. I just feel how also the collective pressure is not around the heart. There's not a clear path nor incentive to open the heart collectively. And more I feel there's a lot of misuse, like teachings that basically are they're not heart-centered. There's just a heart makeup in a way, but it's not really. It's, I feel there is a lot of misinformation about what it is to lead from the heart. And because I do feel that you have some wisdom, very particular wisdom around it, I would like to have your take on it.
So when it comes to opening the heart or closing the heart, I think when you feel safer, you can open it more. So like trauma very often leads to closing one's heart. Of course, there's the blueprint, right? If we are more heart-centered or if we're more mind-centered, then there's the gender thing, women, men, which chakras, where we invest more, which wolf do we feed, what do we feed, what do we invest in? It is not considered a necessity in the curriculum at school, in any kind of setting to expand the heart, to make that bigger, to make that vessel, that to hold more space there. It is very mind-centered society, which is a very masculine society. But I get that's kind of more your second question. The first question is, I was hurt very, very deeply when in my Saturn return was, and my node opposition was happening. I was hurt very, very deeply, and I closed off. And then the sensation came in when actually my closest friend, she said, she was crying. She said, like, I don't feel you anymore. You're not here anymore. You're like a shell. You're like an empty vessel. There was this situation where it was very logical to show emotion, but I showed no emotion whatsoever. I was this emotionless shell because I was so deeply hurt that I didn't feel it. But the interesting thing is, on the outside, it looked as if I didn't feel, but in the inside, I used to call this feeling the ice cream feeling. It's like there was this ice cream. It felt like an ice cream that I'm swallowing. And inside there was this too cold, and it's too cold. And inside there's this kind of burning. So there was a pain in my heart. It's like when it flows down here, there was this pain, but it was frozen. It was like a frozen pain. And then for many, many years following that, I was only able to release emotion or to feel emotion concerning others. Like I could cry about somebody else's sad story. I would still cry in films and books, and I could keep an open heart for others, but was regarding myself, I could not cry for years, if not decades. So when I started my spiritual journey, it was very much about letting go, about feeling, about tapping into the feeling. And that was one of the most, it was kind of, the thing is, oh, well, Nadia, she cannot let go. She, I keep it up. And that is because I have such a deeply wounded and like such a hurt, and it's like an open wound that's just being covered. So that was like very, very, very conscious practices, and like this keeping on it and keep on doing it, that helped me opening it up. And it has to be in a way that it's feeling safe. It is not safe after trauma to open up your heart it can re-traumatize you, right? If it's not in a safe surrounding. So it's very important to create the base and the back first before you start to crack somebody's heart open, just because it can also be a teacher's kind of ego-centeredness of, I need to open this person's heart or whatever. No, you need to feel safe first. Because if you are traumatized and you close your heart due to trauma, you need to feel safe first, and only then you can open it again to release pain. It doesn't mean that your heart is closed when it comes to to other people's sadness, the compassion, the empathy. That does not necessarily have to be affected, but just the feelings for self just are frozen. In my case, it was like that. Just everything to do with myself was frozen and rigid, but I could still feel empathy and compassion. However, there's a level of trauma where that totally stops, where there's actually any kind of compassion, any kind of empathy just disappears, and it's just about survival, and it's fully mind-centered. So in our world, this is just moving on to the second question, without having fully answered the first, because it's way deeper than that. It takes more, but we can touch upon that later again. Our world, to have people connected with their essence, to have people connected with their instincts, to have people connected with their heart, compassion, empathy, soul beings, is not desirable for the people in power. Because if you have people who are heart-centered and whose instincts are intact cannot be controlled. When people are in the compassion, the empathy, and the heart, and in union instead of separation, they are in union and they cannot be played out against each other. So they're like a force to be reckoned with. There are values. There is this internal compass of values of what is right and what is wrong, which are aligned to the divine values, not to some cultural dogma values. That just, you don't harm people, there's just certain rules of respect and harming, no harming, of valuing each other's space, freedom of expression, and all those values which very often were part of a nation's constitution before they were taken away again. So it is not in the interest of certain powers which are not necessarily seen. There's like very much a hidden government, the so-called shadow government, which is behind the actual people we see on the forefront. And there's a very few people in this world who hold like 90% or 95% of the resources. There's like very, very few people who have this power in their hands. And the rest of us, humanity, we are just pawns on the chessboard, and we are being played. So when you play chess, you do not want those pawns to to solidarize themselves with each other and like talk to the other ones, the black and the white ones. Hey guys, this one has this intention, so let's just make sure that that we're not being taken off the field. No, you separate, you separate people, you divide and conquer them, you divide people. So you create drama, you create separation, you play out people. So, and to be able, this is just what's playing out in the world now. But before we get there, because somebody whose heart is open, somebody whose instincts are intact, and we're talking here about the feminine chakras. We're talking about Svadhisthana, which is our deep, innate, archaic instinct of what is and what isn't. Then our heart is compassion, empathy, and knowing this is not right. And then the ashna is the intuition, just this compass goes like ding, 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 ding. This is something is really going wrong here. So there's this really very, very precise attack on these energy fields, which are all feminine. We need the masculine ones to express them, but these feminine centers, these chakra centers, they are under attack. So we are basically groomed to be a society. We are traumatized and re-traumatized. So this whole 2020 episode was a collective traumatization of humanity, which made it possible to implement certain rules and regulations and divide and conquer even more. People in trauma, as I said before, we close our hearts, so we become less generous in spirit. We lose the alignment. Then in the Swadhisthana, there's a lot of interference with birth control, abortions, with you know, a lot of interference with sexuality.
Yeah, the sexuality and like promiscuity, all of these
A
things.
lot of interference. Either you have got the denial of it and the total, or you have the promiscuity, the pornography. There's a lot of attack in those realms. And also with the cesareans, the disconnecting the child from the womb, the whole transgender agenda, which is dishonoring the genetic setup of humanity, that what makes us human, not robotic or, you know, disconnected. It's an attack on connection. And then the heart thing, which I talked about, and the Ashna, it's all the screen times, it's all the medication, this overstimulation with TV, iPhone, iPad, all the medical interventions, you know, in the body, what we do, the chemicals, the fluoride in the water, the 5G, it's all this attack on here. So we're being attacked on such a level that even the strongest amongst us, and even the ones amongst us who are aware what's actually going on, we are so challenged with what is going on. And in this climate, we've all got our Achilles heel. I have a different Achilles heel that you have, but they get us both because there's like something for everybody, right? So in those Achilles heels, they get you, and then because you're disconnected, you, not you, but one reacts often not aligned, not the clairvoyance, the intuition not intact, and the heart closed, which is then makes it easy to divide humanity with all this conflict. So what we can do, because that all sounds very victim orientated, what we can do, actually the only thing we can do, is to make sure and to work we don't have the it must not be goal orientated, but the steadiness, the commitment to daily recalibration, just to make sure that we do not go there, that we do honor our system, that we do stay aligned, so that we can do with these practices to do that. There's disconnection from the overstimulation, go into nature, ground, practice sacred body work, meditation, whatever is arts, crafts, manual, cooking can be a meditation, you know, something. And there's one point, and I actually want to give the ball back to Salome, because I feel there's a renaissance happening that is now, there's like two things, which is the agenda, but the way out, that's what we agree on, is moving away from the masculine principle of doing it, because there's like a renaissance of the women, that it has to go the more feminine way. And that is something that I would like to give back the word to Salome.
Yeah.
The masculine, you know, the way everything has been done, the redoing what is needed now.
Yes. Yeah, of course, like this is also not only connected to where we are at right now, but how we came about here. If we look at the chronology and we go back in time, there has been by default or design an alliance, let's say, with the mind to really solve the problems that we have, and this was really the role of the patriarchy of the men, and it's a very particular way of working with reality and designing it in a very linear fashion, in a very progressive fashion, very mind connected. And this is where I come from, with my natal chart, my natal design, and what I have realized to be the walk, like the lessons that I'm getting right now, because I do feel my journey is pretty much connected with the collective journey in a way. So what I see in me, I also see a lot in the in humanity as a collective. Of course, there are exceptions, but I'm talking here with the majority rule. And so a lot of my flaws and a lot of the ways I have been behaving I see in the world, and I when I look back in history, I also see the patterns, the historical patterns, of course, like when you are very disconnected from the heart, and you feel unsafe, you feel under attack, the way your ego and in your mind operates is in a very analytical way. It's in a very like very linear way. You look at your how the mind operates is you look at your past, you identify patterns, and you realize that some of those patterns are good. It's very bipolar in a way. It's very white, black or white thinking. There are patterns that are good and there are patterns that are bad, and you want to reinforce the good ones based on your past, and you want to avoid the bad ones. Usually how the mind operates is that this is directly connected to pleasure or pain. So every negative experience that is painful is categorized in the ego as I will avoid this in the future. And so you course correct. When this is not really aligned with the heart, there's a lot of corruption and a lot of misalignment happens. It's through this very black and white thinking of the mind without being informed by the other energetic centers, which of course are very much if you look at it from a historical perspective, um, there's no, it's not by chance. There's a clear plan here to undermine the feminine polarity, because the feminine polarity is the one that holds the keys actually for spirituality. And there's, I see it in my life and I see it in the collective, the gate to start to have access to very spiritual experiences is the heart. It's not only me saying it, there are different lineages who use different words, but it's a point that if you close your heart completely, you will not be able to experience and feel the divine within you. And so when there is this cut from, like, the highway from the mind and the heart is cut, and you're trapped in the mind and the ego, it's very easy to manipulate. It's very easy to manipulate humanity, and it's very easy to have a fake sense of progress. And that's what most of us that live in the Western society, we live almost like anesthesiated of by the system, and it's really so easy to live in the mind and to feel that living in the mind is all there is, because again you will be trapped in that linear fashion. So it's the mind the mind disconnected from the heart is very attached to the material. The mind disconnected from the heart is very it's very easy to get obsessed with external factors, and that's why it's so easy to manipulate it.
It's
You
a
can,
wrong sense of safety.
yes, it's a wrong.
Because we feel unsafe, we go into this safety of what we think we can control, and that is the mind and what comes from the mind.
Yes, and it's very easy to get manipulated because you can feel like a king in literally a slavery. You can, and this is the epitome of our modern day society, where you, and this was my learning curve, because I was pretty much worshiping the kings of this reality, of this timeline. And I was, exactly because of my disconnection from my own heart, I was very much into how do you say, signs of power and signs of success, and I would equate that to safety, and I would equate that with my own path of salvation, of making it into life, of being someone. That's again how they how how you get very easily misaligned, because in particular with my own makeup and what my soul chose to experience in this life, I realized I was born with two wounds, which were like the love, which is not my birthright. And so again, that is it's a heart wound, it's a disconnection from essence. And the second one, also not feeling worthy of love. And I also would say that both of these are heart wounds, and they're pretty much connected to the feminine path and to the feminine lineage. And so when this disconnection happens and you're solely in the mind, whatever society will deem and whatever your mind based on the past deems as pleasurable, it's what you will follow in total blindness, total blindness. And it's very hard to then understand, when you live in the head, that um, you're, and when your ego is the only thing controlling your life, your ego will present you a different story every single day. And the stories of your ego are self-fulfilling prophecies. They become really, they become like these entities of your own making, solely based on where you've been hurt and solely based on what you perceive that would be pleasurable to you to live. And so you're left investing on the wrong things. You're really investing, you put so much effort and so much vision and so much time into things and people and experiences which to your mind would make you happy, but because they are not really aligned, they are not connected to the heart and all your other energetic centers, they're purely distractions and noises and temptations. And the more you walk this path, the more void you will feel, devoid of sense, devoid of meaning, because ultimately the only true meaning in life is the connection to the divine. And in order to connect to the divine, the first gateway is exactly the heart.
The thing is like this it's again going back to this safety. it is those milestones in one's life. You know, you need to have this degree, you need to have this marriage, you need to have X amount of children, not because you deeply feel you need to have children, but because it is something that you have on your agenda, on your bucket list, that it's desirable. There's also trauma, like it's a general brainwashing, but it's also trauma-based individually. It's also cultural conditioning of what is important and what is not. But when you look at it from a bit from the outside, it becomes very weird when you are not in that anymore. It becomes very weird to see how much importance is being put on having the right car. A car needs to take you from A to B, and I understand that certain safety, requirements might be useful. And yeah, I like a nice color, But so there's certain things, of course, which the taste is it, but the brand of something, where did this come into that is so important to have certain brands with knowledge? It is so beautiful to acquire knowledge, but why do you need a diploma to prove it? Why not just prove it by being good at what you're doing? It's all those things that gives you a position in society, which makes you, again, you feel that you're king, like you said, you're like the king of your environment, you're the king or the queen of your queendom. But in actual fact, you're a puppet on the strings, and you're being played by, you're being fed crumbs while somebody else eats the big cake. It is, it's how we are being kept going, how we keep the whole thing going. So the main question is, and that's something which I'm asking me a lot lately, is does it serve a purpose? And then there's also the thing, does it serve me? Yes, okay. But then there's also the ego thing coming in, which is also a question. Is it only meant to serve me, or is it meant to serve, to have a purpose? Like the question for purpose, the question for, does it serve me? So I had, in my own personal history, I had different challenges than Salome because I'm a rebel archetype. So I would, by blueprint, by definition, I would reject a lot of the things which are being promoted in society, which really actually helped me. Yet, it can also be very, I think the rebel archetype is really good because to question things and to look at things from a different angle, but there's a pit bull energy in it, that you, like a pit bull with a bone or something, like you put your teeth in it. And not saying that pit bulls are actually very sweet beings. I know many sweet. It's not referring to that, but in the sense that you put your teeth in it and you just hold on to the bone. Because when you're a rebel archetype, you tend to totally deny everything, which maybe also serves you. And it's got a lot of ego in it. The rebel archetype has a lot of ego in it, but there's a certain sensor for bullshit there. Like you're not as easily lulled into something which is not serving you. You question things by definition. But this thing of a very interesting fact about spiritual journey as well. And I want to go back to this masculine, feminine. I'm not even talking about agenda or conscious agenda. I'm talking about something which has been happening even on the spiritual realms that then did not take one out of the mind. It is that a lot of the spiritual practices or the books and everything in the olden days, they were all written down by men. The women lineage, they passed on verbally. In practice, it's not written down. So all the references that we have from the olden days are written by men. Or I'm sure some women meddled there too, but they had to put a pseudonym or something, and they had to write under a different name. I'm sure women were also active, yet not openly so. And but officially it was only men. And if women wanted to succeed in those domains, they had to be like a man, had to think like a man, because being a woman doesn't mean that you're feminine. So a lot of the practices, they have been designed to enhance the healed masculine side. Yet, as a woman, you need to enhance, or you need to practice the healed feminine. And there I disagree with a lot of the teachings that are modern teachings as well. Not disagree, but I beg to differ, is that, you know, like we have the masculine, the feminine in us, and we unite and whatever. Now we're talking like way advanced. We're talking like being there, like being transcended, transmuted, like we've already left everything behind. And yes, it is like that. I believe very strongly that at a certain stage, it's not about masculine, feminine anymore. It's about the union of everything, and you transcend what is visible, what is here. It's a bypassing when we say that, yes, we have the masculine, the feminine aspect in us, and we need to balance, and everything is the same. It's not. A man needs to live his healthy, healed masculine side. A woman needs to live her healthy, healed feminine side. And yes, we can tap into the, you know, the masculine, the healed masculine within ourselves to help us through situations. We have everything in us, but it's bypassing the fact that we need to heal. The women need to heal their feminine essence. The man needs to heal his masculine essence. And then we join together. It is in the old spiritual practices, nothing is there about how the woman can ascend. It's all mind orientated, and it's all focused on the masculine chakras, on the masculine way. There are verbal, like orally passed on lineages, and like in the tantric lineages, the ancient tantric lineages, and some other, like also in other traditions, lineages that pass on the knowledge from women. So the woman's spirituality is very much heart-based. It's also very much about staying here in these realms and doing the work in these realms. It is this, you know, there is this essence, and when it's time, you can transcend everything. But when we are in this human experience to be humans, there's a reason why we're in this human experience. And within a lifetime, towards an older age, yes, we can transcend, because maybe it's our last time. Yet we have been born with a purpose, and we were put in a human body for a purpose. So we need to become the best versions of humans that we can be. We do not, like, there's this general thing of striving to transcend humanity. So that I feel very strongly that that this traditions in religion and spirituality is feeding into the worldwide agenda, because even in spirituality, it's very mind-based, it's diploma-based, it's hierarchy-based, it's linear and not circular.
Yes, definitely. And I also feel, to me, there's no coincidence that by design, anatomically and everything, you know, the masculine polarity has some gifts which are like in regards to physical stamina and like power, and like even the ability to express. This is Vishuddha, it's a masculine it's an inherently masculine energy center. So I feel that is made by design, but then the polarity when it comes to actually the spiritual energetic realms, women by design are more powerful there. There's a reason for
Yes.
there's a balance here to be stricken. And so even if we look in the material realm, yes, we have mostly men of power and men with a lot of material riches and material success, but also spiritually, we have a lot of spiritual leaders. Most of them are men in the, and to me, it just does not make a lot of sense, first of all. And secondly, I've actually I've received some I've received on part of well, one man actually these men who has invested in spirituality, but how a lot of spiritual, like male spiritually initiated, they actually envy women for their innate ability to navigate the energetic and spiritual realms. But where the problem lies is that um, I think we are even like circling back to one of our previous episodes where like actually the divine feminine is not quite here because we ourselves women, I and of course it's partially explained by history and by years and years of being followed and misused and mistreated by the patriarchy. But the truth is, we women don't give ourselves the energetic and spiritual value. There's a part of us who values more the masculine traits and even the masculine. And I look at me like the here I actually don't think it's all women, but me being a very mind-centric person, I overvalue my masculine chakras over my feminine ones. Yet I understand as I am more and more connecting to my feminine powers, my feminine energetic centers, I know it's not even, there's no doubt in here. I know because I've experienced working singularly with each chakra, and I just know how my feminine ones are much more powerful. It has nothing to do if I compare the power that lies in my masculine chakras uh, to the feminine ones. Is just it's night over day.
It's the power tools. It is what it's needed. It is the connection. It's the feminine. It's the healed feminine is the connection. It's in olden days, in healed societies, it was the women who were connecting to the divine, and the men were holding the space and providing. And it was the women, the oracles were the women. They were giving the information, they were communing, and the man was then implementing, was speaking. The man is the exterior, the one who represents towards the outside world, and the female is connecting to the divine, and she needs the space and the safety to do so. And why is the feminine so much has been oppressed in patriarchal settings? Because why were the witch hunts? Because it is dangerous. Females who engage in herbs and connection and everything, it is a threat to dogma. It is a threat it's a threat to the society, which the man feels unsafe, feels threatened by the woman. A man comes from the woman, and it is this threat. And we women, we are our own biggest enemies. We go to male teachers who teach us women femininity, who teach us Shakti healing, men who do Shakti healing on women. Why? We give our power away. We it is this, there is a certain greed as well, which I've experienced with men, and I'm not with certain that I've really experienced a lot of honoring for the divine feminine too by men, a lot. And with men that I can really honor the divine in them, you know, like you honor the divine in each other. There's no more or less, it's together. But there's like this greed, which I've seen in men's eyes when I just opened up a bit, or some energy came out, or I said something, this greed for knowledge about Shakti, you know, this greed. There's like, they want it, it's like this, it's like, I want money, I want this, it's like this power, there's this greed is coming out, and it is very, very, very detrimental, and we're entering a field which is, takes a lot of discerning when entering that field. Yes.
Yeah, but I also feel with the, and yes, I really want us to be here with the, make a disclaimer. There's no one, bottom line, there's no superior, inferior. These are all ways of communicating and describing what there is, but it's just because our soul chose this particular path in these lifetimes. And I've certainly been a male in the past. I've actually connected to more male lifetimes than women. So there's a balance to it all. It's just that right now, by design, we cannot access other lives. But now, talking about the feminine path, um, I've also come to realize that because I was so far off, there were points in my life that I was really living my life as a female, but and still to some degrees I still honor more the masculine essence within. And what I've or my, yes, my masculine traits, and what I've realized is that um, it's actually the feminine that connects more to the kind of like the beauty of life, the experience is like, it's really, I was fortunate enough to have those moments where I felt really connected to something higher, to some higher force. And those moments, they were completely detached from anything that was happening in my physical life. Those were like very like felt experience. It's very, very hard to even put them into words, because it's really a state of being and a presence, and there's different energies coming into your vessel, and that's where I really feel lies a lot of the power of the feminine, where when you start to feel in your body like different, you start to feel different, but it's really, it's a felt experience. And then depending on the particular feminine energetic center you're working with, the way the energy manifests outwardly is different, but it's a realm of innate beauty. It's like the masculine provides the structure and the safety, and really the containment of it all, but then the overpouring, the overflowing, the magic happens with the feminine. Men can also experience this if they heal their feminine, like Carl Jung talks about it, the anima. If they start to engage with also their feminine counterparts. But again, in order even to start to conceive these things, the gateway is the heart. And I really feel a big lesson for me has been like this, what Nadia talked about in the beginning, this characteristic of letting go. I also feel that's mind, that is a big mind trap. The mind, the ego, who likes safety also likes identification, and it's not willing to let go of past experiences for protection mechanisms. So you feel if you let go, you're losing something, you're losing experience, or you're losing some thread of power, of knowledge. However, it's through the heart that the true alchemy happens. So what it happens in the heart is you take that experience, you take that event, you take that person, you let it do what it must in the heart, and you feel, you integrate that, and that's where the true alchemy from mind stuff, from like knowledge, then you alchemize in the heart. It's a felt experience, and then you transmute it to true wisdom. And if you don't really have your heart opened, you don't, the truth is you're too trapped, you're holding on to information, you're holding on to experiences, to people, to material things, and you cannot access true wisdom. Yeah, and I think I'm finished. It's time to wrap
Amen
up.
to that. I could not agree more. It's amen to that.
Thank you. And see you in our next episode. Namaste.
Namaste.